The Atlanta Braves would love to not get swept by the Chicago White Sox. They've got to get through lefty Anthony Kay to do it. Here's your 15-minute scouting report for today's game. Yes, this is your Braves Today Scouting Report, a production of the Belief Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm Lindsey Crosby. In the next 15 minutes, we're breaking down everything you need to know before first pitch. Today, it's the Braves and the White Sox in the series finale, so let's get into it. Both teams have put out their lineups for the game, assuming we have one because of weather. I'll get to that in a few minutes. For the Braves, their lineup, a little bit different when they're facing a lefty. They have Mauricio Dubon in left field leading off in front of center fielder Michael Harris II. First baseman Matt Olson batting third, and Ozzie Albies moving back to the cleanup spot. Austin Riley is batting fifth today at third base. Jorge Mateo stays in the lineup, but moves from shortstop to designated hitter, batting sixth, followed by Eli White in right field batting seventh, Ha-Sung Kim at shortstop, and catcher Sandy Leone behind the plate. Honestly, wondering at what point are they going to talk? They've been talking about that load management thing. Just felt like this would have been a great game to maybe let Ozzie Albies DH, give him a half day, unless he's just fundamentally opposed to that. Jorge Mateo has played plenty of second base in his career. He's not done it for Atlanta this year, but he's done plenty of it in his career, and he could have done it here. So, curious to see what's going to happen or when the Braves are finally going to do something like that. On the mound for Atlanta, he made the thumbnail today. Martín Pérez, veteran lefty, 4-3, 3.02 ERA. That is a little bit of an overperformance based on the inputs and the ERA estimator. So it's a 4.06 expected ERA and a 3.99 fielding independent pitching, but 20.9% strikeout rate, 8.9% walk rate. So the difference there is about 12%, but good to see that he's ticking that strikeout rate above 20%. When it falls below, that's where you really get a little bit nervous. It is a 5-pitch mix. It is anchored by a sinker and changeup to lefties. That is the main thing that he is doing there, sprinkling in some cutters and some curveballs with the occasional 89-mile-an-hour four-seamer. Against righties, it's more of a 3-pitch mix. He leads with the changeup, followed by a cutter and then a sinker. But he does throw all 5 pitches, 10% curveball, 9% four-seamer. Only 3 members of the White Sox have faced Martín Pérez in an actual game. Remember, he was with this team last year, and so because of that, I'm sure a lot of guys faced him at spring training and things like that. But only 3 players on the roster have faced him in an actual game. Andrew Benintendi's batting 286 with an RBI. That's 14 at-bats. Randall Grichuk is hitting 292 with 2 RBI and 24 at-bats. Miguel Vargas, by the way, 0 for 2. So I'm not sure if that's when Vargas was in LA or if that was when Martín Pérez was in Texas and Vargas was already with the White Sox. For the White Sox, speaking of their lineup, second baseman Chase Meidroth leads off, followed by Randall Grichuk, a second straight game at DH, since it's a second straight game with a lefty on the mound for Atlanta. Miguel Vargas batting third. At first base, Colson Montgomery checks back in the lineup for the first time this series. He's been sidelined with a back issue. He is batting cleanup and playing third base, not shortstop, third base. Really interesting development there, both for him and for my Dynasty baseball team and his eligibility, because if he could earn third base eligibility, that'd be pretty cool. Everson Pereira takes over in center field from Tristan Peters, batting fifth. Braden Montgomery, who has been just the absolute pest of this series, batting sixth in right field again. Edgar Cuero behind the plate for a second straight day, batting seventh. Luis Angel Acuna continuing his time at shortstop, batting eighth. And Sam Antonacci, who has led off in this series, moves to the number 9 hole. I always love when a dude has significant splits and everything, and he can both lead off and bat ninth for you. That's always fun. The starter for the White Sox, like I mentioned, Anthony Kay, 5-1 with a 4.40 ERA, which is not good, and the ERA estimators are worse. Expected ERA has him at a 5.87. Field and independent pitching has him at a 5.49. He has a 16.5% strikeout rate, not great. He has a 9.3% walk rate, which is below the higher average that we're seeing this year in Major League Baseball. The difference there is only 7.2%. So giant red flags right there for the Chicago White Sox. It is a 6-pitch arsenal. He throws all 3 fastballs. He throws 2 different sliders in both a traditional version and his much more frequently used sweeper. And he also has a changeup, because I'm pretty sure there's a rule that every single lefty needs to have a changeup just to give him something that runs away from a right-handed batter. The way, when you look at the StatCast card, the only things that he is doing at even an average level, he's okay at getting ground balls, right? 56th percentile of 44.2%. He is above average at inducing chase, which sweeper guys will do that because it is a pitch that aggressively moves out of the strike zone. You can aim it down the center of the plate and it's going to run off the plate. So sweeper guys will have decent chase. He's a 71st percentile chase guy of 32.4%. Despite that, his whiff rate is awful, 20%, 15th percentile in baseball. And then the other thing he's above average at is fastball velocity. He averages 95.8 with his 4-seamer, 94.9 with his sinker, and has one of the harder cutters at 91. So he has some velocity to him. But again, poor whiff rates, poor strikeout rates. Despite getting a good amount of ground balls, he's still pretty bad on both hard hit rate and barrel rate. His barrel rate's over 10%. It's 19th percentile in baseball. So absolutely a guy on paper the Braves should be able to get after. Flip side here is how he attacks hitters, and some of this is ways that have frustrated the Braves before, okay? Against lefties, it's a pretty simple, really it's a 2-pitch mix. Sinker, sweeper account for close to like 65% of everything he does, with some 4-seamers and cutters mixed in. So the only real breaking ball you see that often is the sweeper. He throws the sinker a lot to open the at-bat when he's behind and before he gets to 2 strikes, right? You're 1-0, you're 1-1, you're 2-1, things like that. When he gets ahead or with 2 strikes, that's when he drops usage of both the sinker and the cutter to throw sweepers, which makes total sense, right? You use sweepers in the same platoon situation because it's a pitch that will run away from a lefty, if you're a lefty, which K is. So he throws over 40% sweepers when he gets ahead in the count. When he's behind, it's like 12%. And then when he gets to 2 strikes, again, he cuts back on the sinker and the cutter to throw more sweepers and more 4-seamers. Interestingly, he's using that velocity to try and get whiffs. Those aren't typically pitches that tunnel off of each other very well, but you can do something where you can elevate a sweeper. And if you've been successful with 4-seamers up in the zone, like an upper rail 4-seamer, sometimes guys will go after that sweeper. It's just a risky pitch because if you leave it over the plate, it's hittable. And even if it's running off of the plate, but guys can make contact with it away, they can shoot it down the opposite line. It's a really odd combination to have as your 2 put-away pitches. Sweeper, 4-seamer is a weird combination there. Don't really know what that's about. But lefties, 5 pitches. You're really watching for 4 because the slider is barely used. Against righties, it is a very well-rounded mix. He's using everything at least 10% of the time, which makes this kind of difficult. 4-seamer changeup is the primary focus when he is ahead and when he gets to 2 strikes. So those are his put-away pitches. If you have 2 strikes, it's like over 60% one of those 2 pitches. He cuts back on the sinkers and the cutters and the sweepers to do it. When he is behind, he's barely touching the changeup. The changeup drops to like 5% usage so he can throw more sinkers and cutters. And that's a very common adjustment. That's a very standard thing for a lot of pitchers to do is sinkers and cutters when they're behind. So he's not doing anything especially unusual in these situations. He just has a lot of pitches, and especially early in the count, there's not a lot of really strong tendencies to attack him early in the count. You have to wait until the at-bat has started to be dictated a little bit to gain the ability to sit on something. Like when he's ahead, 37% chance he's going to throw you a changeup. Okay, that's a tendency you could be guarding for. To open the at-bat, everything's on the table, and that's always hard for a lot of hitters to deal with. And anecdotally, it feels like that's been really hard for Braves hitters to deal with this season. So kind of frustrating there. When you look at, he does have a very strong preference against lefties to throw you a first pitch strike. That pitch is more than likely, he does get a good amount of chase, but more than likely it's going to either be a pitch in the zone or it's going to be a sweeper for that you're going to swing at, even if it's out of the zone. Like he wants to get ahead of you against lefties. Against righties, he's better at he's throwing a first pitch strike than a ball, but it's not a really strong correlation, right? So kind of the righties have a much tougher at bat today because again, he's throwing all 6 pitches and you can't even necessarily sit on something in the zone for the very first pitch. So it's going to be a tough sledding today, or it could be tough sledding for a lot of Atlanta's righties. Look at the bullpen stat. Oh, before we forget, only 5 Braves have ever faced Anthony Kay, and only 3 of them have hits. Austin Wynns is 1 for 5. Jorge Mateo is 1 for 2 with an RBI. Dom Smith is 1 for 1 with a homer. And guess what? Neither Wynns nor Dom Smith are in today's lineup. So it's really just Jorge Mateo holding it down, being 1 for 2 with an RBI off of Anthony Kay. When you look at the bullpen status, the Braves only threw 2 guys yesterday as far as Didier Fuentes and James Karinchak. So everybody else is somewhat rested. Raisel Iglesias threw 24 pitches on Tuesday. So I'm sure if they could, they'd love to give him another day. See, Robert Suarez, Tuesday was the first time he had thrown since last Friday, and he threw only 7 pitches. So he's well rested. Dylan Lee got yesterday off. He didn't get yesterday off. He threw 3 sliders to get 1 out yesterday. So if you need to if you have to cover, say you have to cover 3 innings on the back end, if you can buy an extra inning out of somebody else, right? No Kinley, but you've got a Karinchak, you've got, some options. You could go Lee Suarez and you could give Raisel Iglesias a day off. But I imagine he could come back if you need him to. The guy I'm not sure about is Dylan Dodd. He threw 31 pitches on Tuesday, and that's right in that weird area of, do you want to use a guy after 1 day, or do you want to try and give him a second day? It's probably down to how he feels today, but maybe it's something where you go Dodd, Lee, Suarez for the 7th, 8th, and 9th to get out of this if you have a lead. We'll see what happens. When you look at Chicago's bullpen, Trevor Richards, their long man, hasn't thrown since Sunday. Everybody else who has been in the bullpen for the entire series has thrown. They've used everybody else. Now, they did call up Chris Murphy for Wednesday's game. He's a lefty. He has not thrown yet. They called up Joe Rock on Sunday. He was in the bullpen for this series. He has not thrown yet. So they have 2 rested lefties, and they have a rested long man. Everybody else has not necessarily gone yet. I'm sorry. I said that wrong. Everybody else has pitched. So we'll see what happens. Tyler Davis, Grant Taylor, they should be able to come back. They threw 20-something pitches on Tuesday. Sir Anthony Dominguez has thrown a back-to-back. Only 27 pitches, though. You could maybe bring him back today if you want to. Sean Newcomb threw 27 yesterday. He's likely down. Last time he threw in the upper 20s, they gave him a couple days off. So we'll see what happens there. But Final thoughts here. They may not even play this game. The weather's been awful all day. As I understand it, there is a tornado watch and some heavy winds at the ballpark all the way through like 8 p.m. So they may not even play this game. They may play this game late at night. It may start at 9 p.m. and run till midnight or something like that. If for some reason they have to bang this game and they cannot play tonight, this was the final scheduled matchup between these two teams. They do have a mutual off day on August 20th. So if they absolutely do have to cancel this game or reschedule this game, it's possible that they decide to do it there. They decide to come back and say, hey, in August, we're going to play this. We're going to make this game back up the best day. But even then, it's tough. There'll be a day in August somewhere you could do this, but that's probably about it. So it's going to be a little difficult to figure this out, but maybe they're able to figure it out. It feels like they're going to try to play today because the logistics are so complicated. But some point in time, like you've got to decide what's going to happen here. And it feels like everything we've heard, they've not banged it yet. The lineups are out. Everybody's planning on doing some of this stuff. So, yeah, we'll play a game. Maybe tonight, maybe not. We'll see what happens. Braves are favored. Braves Today sponsor FanDuel has the Braves favored in this game. But that's your scouting report. If you want the deeper analysis, the lineup breakdowns, everything behind the numbers, make sure you're subscribed to Braves Today. Enjoy the game. Assuming it happens at a somewhat normal time, we'll have the postcast over on Locked On Sports Atlanta and today's three things over at bravestoday.com. I'm going to go figure out what Bandit was barking at. We'll talk to you guys next time.